is everything. Patsy just showed up after being gone for 10 days, literally walking in the door.
All right, we're live.
All right, welcome everyone. This is Monday, June 7th, 2021, and this is the virtual regular meeting of the Lincoln County Board of Commissioners. It is 3:01 p.m. and I have called the meeting to order. We have all three commissioners present today, which constitutes quorum. Next item on our agenda is the adoption of the consent calendar. These are items of a routine nature or items that have come before the board previously. Commissioners or staff may highlight an item at this time if they wish to do so. Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented.
Mr. Chair, I would move that we adopt the consent calendar as presented.
I will second that motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 That motion carries. Thank you. Next item is a discussion, it's a decision and action item. It's an order authorizing the closure of a portion of East Fall Creek Road to vehicular traffic. I expect Director Kenyon will be offering comments. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is an item that I brought forward 3 weeks ago. We had a presentation from the geologist from Weyerhaeuser, Susan Shaw. And at that time, we did not have a board order. We didn't have the language. Since County Council Michael Herbage has prepared an order. And also one of our missing pieces was the fact that I had not heard back from the U.S. Forest Service on their opinion on the closure. Since then, I received an email from the Walport office. Michelle Holman, who is the ranger down there, sent an email basically saying she had been following the situation in that even though that is one of their direct haul routes, she says that that is non-critical to the National Forest and she supports removing the bridge. So that was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. So we have full participation. We have no opposition to this closure.
Any questions, commissioners, or comments?
No questions. I think we thoroughly went over that a couple of weeks ago with the presentation.
I think we had a pretty in-depth presentation. I would agree. I'll entertain a motion.
I will make a motion authorizing the closure of a portion of East Fall Creek Road to vehicular traffic.
I'll second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Any additional discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries. Thank you, Director Kenyon. All right, now we have a couple of discussion items. The first one would be the 2021 fee schedule, and I believe Assistant County Counsel, you will.
Yes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. If Ms. Peter could place on the screen the fee schedule proposals.
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay, and then I'm going to go to the first page, which is the district attorney's page. We only have a few departments that have proposed changes. The DA is actually just making a flat rate for their e-discovery cases. It used to be an additional fee for each page, and they're just making it a flat rate. Okay, we go to the next page. So the next 3 pages are the proposed fee increases for Health and Human Services. And this is for the Environmental Health Division. They're proposing a 3% increase across the board for the fees. So that would include restaurant inspections, And also, lodging inspections for pools. Any questions?
You answered my one question. I was being a little focused and I couldn't think of too many municipal pools.
No? No, this was related to hotels and motels.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, then I'm gonna go to the next page, which is the Sheriff's Office Civil Division. And they're proposing just slight increases for some of their fees for notice processes. And then also for eviction enforcement. And then the last page is the surveyor just has a correction to include, and this is for the preliminary review of a survey. So it's actually $75 per page, not the flat rate of $75. And those are the only fee increases that were submitted for this. This will be in effect July 1st, 2021. We bring this back for an action item. Any questions?
Questions or comments, commissioners?
I have a couple of questions. So one is, I'll go backwards here. The preliminary review of the survey, $75 a page. That seems fairly steep. I kind of don't have the context of what exactly we're talking about here.
So, it's based on the work that would be involved for the surveyor's office to review that, they would actually go over, the legal description. It's not. So previously we had approved the fee of $75 for a survey review. And so this would just be, it wouldn't be a flat rate, it would actually be per, per page of the survey. Just because just as much work is involved for reviewing each thing, I guess. I mean, we could get more information if you'd like from our surveyor.
I'd like a little more information on that specifically. How many pages are we talking about in a typical, preliminary review? So I think I'd like to know that. And the other thing I have to say, if you could want to scroll back up, Christy, onto the restaurant page, granted these changes don't go into effect until the next fiscal year. I'm just concerned that we're still coming out of COVID. Well, we're still in COVID. Right now we are in low risk, but there's still some restrictions. I just don't know how I feel about increasing those rates as of yet. I know we did do a partial refund last year for those facilities, but I don't know if it's the right time to be hitting people with additional fees as they're coming out of the major pandemic where they saw many restrictions. I know we have internal costs we have to cover to do these things, but I'm just concerned.
Okay, anything else, Commissioner Jacobson?
Nope.
Commissioner Hall?
Nothing for me, thanks.
I would just add that certainly increase of fees without full consideration of the rationale is justified. But I have a couple of thoughts. Number one, historically, we've had a hard time keeping our fees, keeping them up with the increase in our costs. And these increases are relatively minor. I mean, what's the $19 for a restaurant with 0 to 15 seats? So I share the thoughts that we want to be prudent in increasing our fees, but I think in view of the relatively small amount of increases and the need to keep our fees in line or keep them up with our costs, I think these are acceptable. So that would be my thought.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Commissioner, Mrs. Commissioner.
actually a miss, but
Oh.
what the A. On the restaurant fees, what you said did strike a chord with me, and, in the long time I've been in office, really, it seems like with a few exceptions, the restaurant fees probably generate more questions and discussion than anything else. I think it's important to point out, as you said, these are relatively modest increases. And this program has never achieved full cost recovery even with these fees. And also, I hate to point the finger back into history, but I think it was somewhere around 2000. I'm not remembering the years, but it was even before I came into office. The prior commissioners had left this fee unchanged for I think a decade or more. And so when it came time to try to better align it with costs, it was something like a 400-500% increase. And that created a lot of howls of outrage. I really like the idea, if we can, of sticking to small, very modest annual increases.
All right. Thank you, Madam Commissioner. Anything else on the fees? All right, we'll move on to our next discussion item, which is the county administrator ordinance. And the Citrus County Council, you welcome back.
Welcome, Pat. Thank you. So before you is proposed ordinance, which would establish a position for a county administrator. And this individual would have all administrative authority over the county. They would participate in the management team. They would be at your direction, meaning you would make the decision of how they would manage appointed directors. They would not manage the Office of County Council or elected directors. Those directors would they would report directly to you, so that would not change. So this is a new position for the county, somewhat. As you know, Mr. Belmont has been filling this role as part of his duties. But for the most part, it would be a new position. So there is, we're at your will of what you want to go, where you want to go with this. And if you've had a chance to review the ordinance, and you have any questions, I can try to answer those, but that's pretty straightforward.
Commissioners, questions, comments?
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Hall.
We have been in discussions for a few months now on shaping this position, and other counties, when they have made a similar move, they have adopted an ordinance that describes the scope of responsibility for the administrator. And just for the public's interest, that yes, this is a new position, but we will be reducing county council from 3 FTE to 2 FTE. We will look at least in the beginning, look at utilizing outside contract legal help if the workload proves to be too much for our 2 county councils. And I think it's, with Mr. Belmont's pending retirement in a month, I can't believe it, but it's here, it's finally here, that this is the proper move for the organization at this point.
Okay. Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, I would just add to what Commissioner Hall just said and say that, this is formalizing something that's sort of been in practice for quite a while, or at least since I've been here. Mr. Belmont has always had a county administrator / management load, whatever you want to call it. And so, as Commissioner Hall said, while this is a, new position in quotes, it's not new having someone do some of the things that we're talking about. So I'm super, super sad and maybe a tad in denial that Mr. Belmont is leaving. I am glad that we are taking this opportunity to formalize that role into a position, as I do think it's a little more transparent and straightforward for people on what everyone's role is.
Yeah, I would add that Council Belmont has been doing the jobs of two people for many, many years. And again, this is at this level, just a restructuring. As has been said, we're not adding an FTE at this level. We are, however, adding an FTE that will be an assistant to the county administrator. And that really is, again, in recognition of the fact that Council Belmont and frankly, Paralegal Harrison have really been the administrator and the administrator's assistant. So money for both the county administrator and that person's assistant is in the budget that will be effective July 1st. So last thing I'd say is certainly when you look at counties with budgets our size, we are one of the largest that does not have a county administrator. So I think it frankly is long overdue and look forward to the change, although certainly do not look forward to the retirement of Council Belmont, although it is well deserved. So any other comments? This will come back for a first reading next week on Monday, the 14th.
That is correct, commissioners.
All right, anything else? All right, we'll move on to reports. The COVID vaccination update. And Lawrence, tell us the good news.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Florence Portal, Interim Public Health Director. We are going for a short and sweet update this week. You can move to the second page, please.
And only 9 pages long.
I know, right? And a lot of graphs. So we thought we'd just give you an update on cases in Newton County. As you can see, we're doing pretty good. We're really seeing the effects of vaccination and have curved down the data surge we had in April. So we're pretty excited about this. And as you can see below, if you can just scroll down a tiny notch. Okay, never mind. Those are the same graphs that presented different, but you can see that really we had no cases reported over the weekend, which is really great news, and just had cases for the month of June at this time and 47 for May. So quite a decrease. Next slide, please. So, Lincoln County, 5th highest vaccination rate in the state of Oregon, yay, and 5th lowest rate in cases. So this is really good news. We're doing really good. You know, really proud of the team and the work we're continuing on doing, which I'm going to discuss a little bit further. Next slide, please. So as you know, the government has set the goal of 70% of the population being vaccinated statewide will lead us to no more state requirement to wear a mask unless it is where the CDC requires it. So that would be in airports, likely planes, public transportation, and healthcare systems. There won't be any more physical distancing and no occupation limits in businesses. We are unsure, so K-12 is likely to return full-time in-person learning in the fall. There might be still some masking requirements in the school setting. So we'll have to see where that goes. So at this time, the state of Oregon is at 66.8% of the total population vaccinated. So we're getting closer. Lincoln County, and you can scroll to the next slide, is 67.5%. So as you know, on May 21st, we were able to move to low risk with a vaccination rate of 65%. So as you can see, our growth in vaccination rate has slowed down significantly. We still are growing, though. Last week, I believe we had an increase of 1.2%, and the week before about 0.8%. So we're making progress. We are completely, like I discussed before, we've completely changed the way we are delivering vaccine to the community. We're really focusing on the people who have not had yet access to the vaccine for various reasons. As you can see here on this slide, we've had an opportunity to kind of look at the data by zip code, which is an interesting representation. We, as you know, from the very beginning of this vaccination effort, we really try to be very mindful of where the vaccine was available to people within our county. I do think it shows. We still have some work to do. However, I think we're sitting pretty good overall. Next slide, please.
Before we move on, only because I'm a resident in 97391, which I see on the right side, but I do not see it listed on the left-hand column.
So I wonder if, Commissioner, that is because that might be a zip code that is shared by two counties. Would that be? So what happens is that there are zip codes where we have residents in Lincoln County and then in the neighboring counties, and the state is unable to really decipher who within that zip code is in Lincoln County and in another county. So this would be my guess, but I can get you more information about this particular zip code. 97391.
Pretty confident 97391 is all within Lincoln County.
Okay,
It's
so
not that critical, personal interest.
yeah,
Well,
no,
well,
it's important.
okay.
No, it's important, and this is a table that we grabbed from the OHA website, so maybe there was an omission, and we'll make sure to look into it and let them know.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions on that slide?
Yeah, I have a question on the previous slide. We can scroll back up. So the 97364 zip code, I just find it kind of interesting that you have people vaccinated with at least one dose 575 and population and zip code all ages 464. So obviously that was an important spot for people maybe from other zip codes to go to.
No, so I think what
Vaccinated than people that live there.
right, so I think what's happening is that the state has been using population data from PSU, I believe, Portland State, and they it seems that maybe their estimate in population is a little off. Yes, I had exactly the same remark this morning. Hold on, what?
Yeah,
So
some are super close, which is good, but yeah, that one was a little off. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good point.
Anything else? Right, next slide, please. All right, so our vaccination clinics this week. So we're very excited to do the second doses of at the schools of the Pfizer vaccine. We have vaccinated over 300 kiddos 3 weeks ago. So this is really good. They're not published on this particular table just because they were only open to students. The ADVL school is open for the community and for the second doses for their students on Thursday. Samaritan is still doing clinics at the Community Health Education Building in Newport, and that's gonna be on Saturday, will be their last clinic in that particular location. And then that will close, as well as the Taft Fire Station clinic is also, this is their last clinic at this time for kind of a standing clinic. However, urgent care in both Lincoln City and Newport will be able to provide vaccinations for people who need one and who walk in, so that's good. The other piece was that the provider's office also within the Samaritan system are now able to provide vaccinations to their patients, which is also really good. On Friday and Saturday this week, we have our second vaccination clinic at the Yacht Club, and we are doing incentives for that clinic, and we have a partnership with a very famous taco truck from what I hear. And so people who will come in and get vaccinated on Friday and Saturday at the Yacht Club will get a $15 taco truck voucher. So hopefully that's going to be inciting for people to get a vaccine. We'll have the Johnson & Johnson available and the Pfizer vaccine available as well. And of course, as you know, pharmacies in our county are providing vaccines. So one process we put in place is every Monday, somebody on our team calls every pharmacy in the county, ask them what vaccine stock they have available, and then we publish that information on our website so people have access to the latest information if they need a first or second dose. Next slide, please.
Florence, is my memory correct? Are some of those pharmacies offering vaccines like after dinner in the early evening?
This is a very good question.
I thought I read that. Maybe it was in larger metropolitan areas, but
I think most of the pharmacies are able to take walk-ins now, which is good. You know, that gives a little bit more flexibility. As per their hours, I believe it's posted on our website. I could find that right now if you're interested.
well, now that you mention it, I'm sure if the pharmacy is open until 9 o'clock, they probably give you a vaccination at 8:30 p.m.
Yeah. All right. So we have, as I mentioned before, you know, we've shifted our delivery model and have definitely focused on partnership with community-based organizations, businesses, other organizations to really bring the vaccines to people where they're at. And so we have some really great partnership going. We have a partnership with Georgia Pacific next week to hopefully offer vaccinations to their employees and the families of their employees. And we have a vaccine clinic on the 14th and on the 17th, and then, you know, second dose clinics a few weeks after that. We are working with the Haven to put a team together for wildfire survivors, which is also a really exciting partnership to us because we really want to make sure that folks have an opportunity to get vaccinated if they would like to. The Toledo Library is also partnering with us for a clinic on the 23rd. We're also taking the opportunity to collaborate with our WIC program, because as you know, this time of year, the WIC program is distributing farmers market vouchers to their participants. And so we thought it might be a good thing to put a little flyer in with the letter talking about the vouchers, and we will have nursing staff available on the 29th in Newport and 30th in Lincoln City for with participants and their family to get vaccinated as well. We have a great Fiesta Latina coming up at the fair on the 2nd, in partnership with Olala Center and OSU Extension to also offer vaccines on site on that day. Next slide, please. And I wanted to give you a sense of all the outreach we've been doing and what we have in the works. So, like I said, really reaching out to people who haven't had an opportunity yet to get a vaccine or to know about a clinic, or who might have been, a little bit hesitant. So we are working with developmental disability program, more fire survivors, organization that provide services to the unhoused and unsheltered. We're working with the low-income housing partners. We're also focusing on, those kiddos who are homeschooled. And what we realize is that the vaccination clinics that we did at schools were not necessarily available to those homeschooled children. So we're doing some outreach there. We're also planning on working with the soccer teams and see if we can organize some vaccination events during soccer games. Definitely reaching out to the tourism industry workers and their employers, restaurants, motels, to offer vaccinations. We're working also with the fire stations, I believe, around Tidewater to bring up some vaccines that way. And definitely working with festivals and farmers markets to see if we can, hold the booth and possibly get some people this way as well. Next slide, please. Okay, that's it. Any questions or suggestions? We'll take them.
Well, I see Commissioner Hall is shaking her head, but she turned her microphone on.
Just want to say, Florence, one more time, thank you to you and thank you for your great team for making all this good news possible.
Thank you so much, Commissioner.
I do have some contacts in the homeschool networks. I will email those to you and Amy. After
Yes,
this,
please.
help get that out. And I think there was a oyster event or something in Toledo this weekend. In fact, I think I heard a rumor that Commissioner Hunt might have been cited at that event. And I heard it was pretty popular. I was not there. And I think they're doing another one maybe in early July or something. So that might also be another event. And I'm blanking on what it was called. Maybe Commissioner Hunt.
It was called Oysters, Arts and Brews, and yes, the rumor is true. I was there, and I will confess I did consume 8 oyster shooters. I happen to like oysters in any form, although I will be honest, freshly shucked and slurped off the shell is one of my favorites, not to be too graphic. But the event is the first Saturday of each month, so I think it's July 1st, or I don't have a calendar. But whatever that first Saturday is in July and August, and it's right there on Main Street in the, for lack of a better word, kind of a mini park that's right across the street from Bank of the West. But it was a great event. There are other foods that you can consume and lots of art, and there was some pretty good music to be enjoyed also.
I'll definitely pass that on to the team for future events.
And Commissioner Jacobson, I assume we're through. We have no further questions or comments. Turn your microphone.
That is all I had. Thanks.
Okay, just want to be sure. I was just going to point out that one of the things I try to do each day is go for a walk And one of the days last week, it may have been Thursday or Friday, there was another clinic again at the, well, near where the Port of Toledo's offices are. And I don't know if it was Commissioner Jacobson or somebody else that had reported earlier that they vaccinated something like 67 people or something, which I thought was pretty doggone good for right there along Business Loop 20.
Yes, that was actually a very successful event. That was a second dose event. And we had about 50 plus first doses that we administered at that event. So what we're trying now to do for most of the events is to have a variety of vaccine available to people so that if people, just passing by and they're like, yeah, I could get a shot. We have the J&J available to them. And also we're trying to get more Pfizer vaccine out there so that we can serve, the 12 and older. So yeah, that was a very successful event.
Yeah, it was good to see. All right, there are no more questions or comments, so we'll move on. Thank you again, Florence, who is our interim public health director. We appreciate the information.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll move on to the Echo Mountain Fire update. The agenda says it's Council Belmont, but I know historically we've gotten some updates from Commissioner Jacobson and potentially Director Finley. So I'll let Council Belmont start.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Wayne Belmont, County Council, and I'll try to be really brief with this, but I was going to give you some interesting information that was just provided to us from FEMA, which is really at the 20 or 30,000 foot level. It's called Recovery at a Glance as of June 1st, 2021. This is the assistance FEMA has provided to survivors of the wildfire. So 266 individuals and households have been approved for $2.5 million in federal grants through the FEMA Individuals and Households programs. And that includes $2 million in grants approved for housing repairs or replacement for 159 homeowners, and just about $478,000 approved for personal property, transportation, and other disaster-related needs for 225 applicants. FEMA has completed 363 home inspections, and those are 99% complete at this point. Of course, we're participating in the direct temporary housing program. That's in conjunction with the Celeste Tribe on Logan Road. That's the housing that's provided directly to a number of survivors. We have 10 different projects that FEMA has obligated for public assistance. That's to basically reimburse the many public agencies that were involved in both the response and recovery from the wildfire. I know my office, and including, I'd like to mention Janet Harrison, who was doing just an incredible job, and Roy Kenyon and others are participating as we go through that pretty expansive process that FEMA provides to try and recoup some of those costs for our organizations. And we're going forward. So far, $134,161 has already been provided, but again, there are other multiple projects that are in process right now. But that being said, that's not the end of it, and especially for the survivors. Even though we're months past the initial fire in this case, we're still reaching out, doing a great deal of outreach to make sure that folks that need assistance are getting assistance. One of the activities that has just begun is what they're calling a community or survivor re-engagement process. And we're looking at some models that have been tried in other counties, specifically one in Jackson County, in which basically the survivors are really contacting us and expressing concern that they've either been denied assistance or they just don't understand how the assistance works and really need some help. So it's an opportunity to actually re-engage with all the survivors to provide them another look at what it is they can do. So that process has begun in Lincoln County, again, looking at some models from other areas that have been successful, and we hope to re-engage with survivors to assist them. We also are in a process on the debris cleanup, and I'll let Mr. Kenyon or Mr. Snakes maybe talk a little bit more about that. We're trying to make sure that all of the hazard trees that are in the area that have not been removed today, either because the rights of entry were not signed by the property owners or for whatever the other reason. If there are additional hazard trees in those areas, there's going to be some opportunities to try and come back in a last time and clean those up. There is, of course, a lot of stuff. I'll let Commissioner Jacobson talk about the legislative action. There's a lot of programs that we've sought funding for that have been funded at this point, and others that we expect to occur in the last few weeks of the session. So a lot more assistance coming everyone's direction. So with that, I'll stop there and answer any questions or turn it over to Commissioner Jacobson.
Questions or comments for Council Belmont? Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, I'll just pick up where Council Belmont left off. So the FEMA re-engagement events are June 18th through the 21st. Fridays and Mondays from 9 to 7 and Saturday and Sunday from 10 to 8 at the Otis Fire Station. You can make an appointment or do a walk-in. These are for people that have already applied for FEMA. So not people that never applied, people that did apply and that have questions or got stuck or want to check in or what have you. That is moving forward. Also, this is actually kind of a little bit of an update from planning that I thought I would share with everybody. So got an email from them earlier this morning that in terms of progress being made on rebuilding, there was 253 manufactured homes that were destroyed in the fire. And so far, as of today, there's been 105 applications through county planning for new manufactured homes. So not quite halfway there yet. There was 57 site-built homes that were destroyed and 3 that were damaged. And we have applications for 28 site-built homes. So almost halfway there on that one. And then we had other structures, residential structures, 19 that were damaged or destroyed. These would be things like shops, outbuildings, and sheds, and those types of things. And we have 11 permits on those. So we have made significant progress. Still have a long ways to go, but I just thought it was worth sharing, and certainly want to thank the planning department for all of their hard work on kind of shuffling all of those through. The school excise tax, which again is not something we are in control of, but we have to legally collect the tax. The school district did waive that fee. That sunsets on June 30th. Planning was very concerned about that sunsetting because again, we don't have everybody that has applied yet for a new home. Reached out to the school district today about that and did get a response back from Dr. Gray that there is a bill right now at the state level that would waive that. They're expecting that to pass. Timing might be a little tight because theirs ends June 30th or sunsets rather. And the session's gonna wrap up just right before that. So it will likely be tight, but they do expect that to pass. And so, most likely that waiver of excise tax fees will continue. And then just the last thing I wanted to, or second to last thing I wanted to report on is some dollars that hopefully will be coming into the county on HB 3127. $1.8 million for Panther Creek water tank replacement. Again, none of these have been passed yet. These are just what it currently looks like. $15 million for Panther Creek septic and stormwater project. However, that one sort of got mislabeled in the legislative process because it wasn't just for Panther Creek, but rather for the whole Otis area. So I'm trying to work on getting that slightly relabeled. There's a 5K for well repair and spring fed system repair. It will be coming to Lincoln County. $1 million for communication and radio infrastructure. Again, coming to Lincoln County and the Sheriff's Office. $320K coming into Lincoln County Sheriff's Office for increased patrol services during the building process, $1 million for private road rehabilitation that would come into Lincoln County. And then $190K for building and planning staff that actually would go through DLCD, who then would funnel it back to wildfire affected counties. $476,000 for fee waiver losses to counties, and I think that amount was roughly what would be coming back to us. So those are things that are kind of currently in that bill that affect us directly. And I think the last thing I just wanted to put on everyone's kind of radar is, I believe, coming up in September. Wayne, you can help me. I think it was September 30th, maybe, or something like that. Our temporary use for RVs for wildfire survivors, that's going to sunset. And so we probably need to put that on the agenda for the next sometime, maybe in June or July, so that we can rediscuss that. And it would be my recommendation that we think about extending that. Again, we just don't have people or everybody back home yet. And I certainly want to do that with enough time that people, know what's happening, and have time to adjust accordingly. So those are all the updates I have at this time.
All right, lots of good information. Director Kenyon, anything you'd like to add?
Good afternoon, Commissioner Roy Kenyon, Public Works Director for Lincoln County. I don't have anything to add on the continuation of the hazard tree removal. I don't have any new information there, but I did meet with a representative from ODOT, Oregon Department of Transportation, and their contractor, K&E Excavating, last Tuesday to take a look at the condition of some of the roads in the burn area. ODOT has agreed to pay for some maintenance to be done on these roads that were directly affected by K&E's efforts on the debris cleanup. And so we kind of went road by road, kind of drew some lines more or less in the sand or in the gravel, and they come up with a plan to go ahead and do some repair work, addition of some road rock with some shoulder work. And they still actually have a few lots that they have to clean up. They're still working on that, and so they will not be addressing the road issues until they have all of their cleanup done. But I would assume that their actual road work will start sometime in the coming weeks. And so I felt that was a good thing. Now that the dry weather is here, we don't really have the mud issue, but we do have a lot of really rough roads. And if it doesn't get taken care of now, it will be a mud issue come next late fall and winter. So I thought that was really good on ODOT's part to step up and take care of these public roads that aren't actually maintained by any jurisdiction. There is a Panther Creek Road District who has limited funds to maintain their road system, but a lot of the public roads off of Yodel Lane, they're user maintained. And so this basically is a good shot in the arm to kind of get that taken care of. So that's all I have for an update.
So have there been any recent ROEs that have been received by the county in the last, week or so?
I am not aware of any, and I don't know if Paul has heard anything on that. He may have a little bit to add.
Paul Seitz, Lincoln County Solid Waste District Manager. Hello, Commissioners. The last I heard, 2 people did sneak in at the end, not last week, but the week prior, for ROEs, bringing up their count from like 6 new ones they're processing through to 8. And so they're working through those now with all the preliminary hazardous material inspections, and it'll be cleaned up soon. So that's part of the last group, and it will be on the last work order.
Thank you. Good information. Commissioner Jameson.
Yeah, may I ask a question, Paul? So These properties that are now engaging and moving forward with the state, does that, are we at the end? You know, I know when I was up there, last week, or maybe the week before, I noticed there is still several properties that were not cleaned up, and they looked just like they did when I drove through with the sheriff, 2 days after the fire. Have we looked in everybody? Are we still missing a few?
The absolute answer is there are a few properties. We have certainly put out a lot of effort to rope all the properties in. We have sent letters, communications, emails, Facebook posts, but we have not yet had success at all properties.
Is that because people are saying, no, thank you, or just not, we haven't heard from that all?
I did try a campaign in January in which many people did send me no thank you letters, and I have those still on file. But I have not related the properties that are remaining with those, and I don't know the answers to the specific few that are left. But I'm gonna guess, as we mentioned all along, there should be about a dozen or so. We're gonna have to figure out what to work with, and we're getting down to those.
Yeah, and I'm mostly worried about the ones that maybe we've never heard from at all. We have any of those, I mean, it is property owner choice, so if they say, no, thank you, that's fine. But I'm worried about, if we have any that we just have never heard from.
The only one that I'm aware of that's property owned by a bank, for example, we did contact them and they did clean it up themselves. So the bank owned property was cleaned. But the other ones where we have property owners, we're down to property owner contact.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else on wildfire? All right, I think we'll be hearing from you, Paul, in just a few minutes. So stick around, please. Thank you. And if there's nothing more on the fire update, we'll move on to the Department of Forestry update. And we have our unit forester, Matt Thomas, who we've seen before. Welcome back, Matt.
Yeah, good afternoon, commissioners. With me today, I've got our district forester, Michael Curran, and I'll let him kick things off.
Yeah, good morning, Chair Hunt and other commissioners. I've got a PowerPoint to share. Am I able to do that, or do you just want to go off the board packet and do it that? What would be easier?
I can turn it over. One moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christie will put you in a position of authority.
I don't know if you want to do that.
All right, you have control now.
Okay, thank you. I gotta figure this out first, so. Okay, can you guys see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, let me move some of this stuff off the screen here. So we can see, okay, so, kind of a little bit, so I guess first of all, introduction. So, like Matt said, my name is Michael Curran. I'm the new district forester for ODS West Oregon District. You should have gotten a copy of this PowerPoint and then also an org chart and kind of a one-pager that just lists the 30,000 foot level everything we do as an agency. So hopefully you got that. And then like Matt said, he's tagging along here. He's our unit forester out of our Toledo office, so he's in charge of all of the stuff in Lincoln County. I kind of want to start this presentation off a little differently than we have in years past, just due to the nature of the past fire season we had. And for some reason, my PowerPoint is not switching over. Okay, do you have a thank you slide on there?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I think I got it figured out. So yeah, I really just want to start off with a big thank you. We have not been able to be in front of you all in a couple years now. This last spring due to COVID, we weren't able to talk with you, and then we weren't able to get in touch with you all after the Echo Mountain Complex. And really, for Matt and I, we just want to express our gratitude to Lincoln County and the efforts that you guys went through with us as we were actively fighting that fire. I think first and foremost, I just want to thank you, the three commissioners, just for your continued engagement, especially on the front end of that fire. Having you there in our hip pocket, being there engaged and a good partner with us made things a lot easier for us. So I just want to publicly thank you all for your help during that. Like I said, that was a huge thing for us. Also wanted to give a shout out for Sheriff Landers and his team. The effort that him and his deputies went through with the evacuations during that fire. And the fact that no lives were lost as we were actively evacuating people, especially when that fire made its big 2,000-acre run in a matter of a few hours on the early morning of that Wednesday, I think speaks volumes. And there's some other things that, Sheriff Landers and his team helped with, and Matt will touch on those here as we get towards the bottom of the slide. Also want to give a shout out to Jenny Damaris, the County Emergency Manager. Not much can be said about her. Quite frankly, she's a rock star. The work she has put in preparing all the emergency response agencies in Lincoln County, including ourselves, and making sure everybody's on the same page, everybody's planning, the outreach she does with the public. I think is also another big reason why no lives were lost, that there was a good contingent of folks that were prepared as the sheriff's office was actively evacuating people. So just want to, like I said, publicly give her a shout out for all the efforts and work she's done in recent years for making sure everyone's prepared. So also want to talk and give a shout out to Casey Miller, sorry about that, the public information officer there for the county, and the work he did in helping coordinate and making sure there's a consistent message going out to the public. And that started from day one during initial attack, even when the incident management team came in to help manage that fire. Public information is one of the hardest things to manage on incidents like that, because there's so many venues where information can get out there, and some of it's accurate, some of it's not accurate. Casey was instrumental in just making sure that we had that a very distinct message that went out every morning and every night, and just keeping everybody appraised and informed of what was going on. And he worked well with the ODF incident management team that was in place for that fire, so I just want to thank him for his effort. So I'll hand it off to Matt for these last two bullet items to talk through.
Like Michael mentioned just a little bit ago with the sheriff's office, as you guys know, that first night we had a severe injury to one of our firefighters. And, for Michael and I and the rest of our district, a very special thank you to the sheriff's office for their help that night in getting our firefighter to the hospital. Just a quick update on him. He's working on making a full recovery. Things are doing really good. And I think he was hoping to come back this year and fight fire, but we're still in the waiting phase there to see if he can make a full recovery from all his injuries. But once again, just a special thank you to the deputies that were there that night and the whole sheriff's office team. Also to Fire Chief Rob Murphy. I know he's the Newport Fire Chief, but he also acts as the County Fire Defense Force Chief alongside Rob Dahlman, who's the Assistant County Fire Defense Force Chief. Both those guys, the engagement they had were instrumental in the success of the Echo Mountain incident as well. It was good to have both of those guys, one at the GOC and one on the ground, just helping with the suppression of the fire.
Yeah, and just one thing I forgot to mention about Sheriff Landers and his team, they also provided some staff to help with the fire investigation piece, and that was huge for us to get that assistance. So thank you for that. And I apologize to Director Kenyon. I probably should have added the Public Works Department on this as well. I probably would have missed somebody else that I need to say thank you to. I just can't include them all, but I do want to give a shout out and thank you to Director Kenyon of the Public Works Department there. He was huge just for the help during the fire and after the fire as well. So thank you. All right, with that, we will go ahead and go on to the actual update. So, and I forgot to say, if you guys have any questions throughout this, feel free to let us know and chime in and interrupt. You're not going to hurt our feelings. So, kind of big news for us. So, State Forester Peter Doherty, he resigned at the end of interim, we have Nancy Hirsch. She'll be in place through October. I don't know, some of you may know Nancy. She's been around the agency for 30 plus years at least. Recently retired in 2019. We're happy to have her on board, and our board of forestry will ultimately hire the state forester. They'll be going through a national recruitment process to get a full-time state forester, hopefully in place by next fall sometime, and going from there. So obviously big news right at the top for us. So as you guys are well aware, right now we're in the tail end of a long legislative session, and some of the priorities for the agency, as you guys can see on the screen there. First one being large fire funding fix. You know, we've had the same funding mechanism for large fires in the state of Oregon, particularly within ODF for decades. And starting in 2012, we just started getting more costly wildfire seasons year after year, and it became quickly apparent, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, that our normal way of doing business and funding for large fire is not a long-term sustainable plan. So we're trying to work with the legislature to come up with what a potential fix looks like. We don't think we're gonna get a fix this legislative session, but we're definitely making headway in just trying to educate the legislators that are out there on kind of what the issues are. Hopefully in the next session, we might be able to come up with a fix, but time will tell. Next one being agency capacity needs. If there's anything we've learned since 2012 and the more severe and more costly fire season, we are way underfunded as far as capacity goes. And we've gotten some temporary additional capacity through the E-Board last December, and we're currently working with the legislature to make sure we can get that into our permanent budget for our next biennial budget, which hopefully we'll get some resolution on here over the next 2 to 3 weeks to see if we got that. And what that would include locally for West Oregon would be the addition of 6 more firefighters, on the ground firefighters, which will be huge for us. Those are extra boots on the ground that can help fight fire. And then also adding some more position authority to some of our current seasonal positions and extending them longer into the year. So we have firefighters on the books and on staff for longer throughout the year than how we normally pay for them. So that would be a good thing. Implementation of MGO recommendations. I'm sure you guys have seen in the news some of the financial struggles we've had as an agency the past 12 to 18 months. And a lot of that's just due to our large fire funding and us having to hold the money for a lot of these large fires and take it 3 to 5 years to get reimbursed by other agencies. So this firm was hired by DAS to really look at our funding mechanisms and our finances and come up with solutions on what can be done to fix them and get us on a better path moving forward. They've come out with their recommendations, and we're working as an agency with staff and the legislature to implement those recommendations and try to get us on a better path moving forward as far as our finances are concerned. And then the last one being post-fire recovery and restoration, and this is just due to all the large fires that we experienced in the state from the Labor Day event, and even fires before the Labor Day event, because last year we burned 550,000 acres statewide. ODF, that's just ODF protected ground. The closest fire season we had to that was back in the 1930s in the Selma burn era, and the most they had was 340,000. So a lot of post-fire recovery and restoration work going on in the landscape, and we're just working with the legislature to make sure we can get funding to help landowners out that can go in and clean up their properties after these fires, and hopefully get them on a good path for moving forward from a forest management standpoint. Those are kind of the big nuggets from our 2021 legislative session priorities and other kind of agency updates. So kind of a nuance within the state of Oregon is ODF actually protects BLM land west of the Cascades, and that's unique in the U.S. No other states do that. So they provide quite a bit of money to our budget, and they're just like any other government. You see it, as you guys are well aware, budgets keep shrinking, and it's hard to keep the services going just with the increased costs. And BLM running into the same thing, and there was talk of potentially losing the BLM fire protection in Western Oregon, which is a huge deal for ODF. That could have some major impacts to our budget, so where we could potentially 22 was passed through the legislature. And what it did was, fund a 18-month mediated session, between the timber industry and environmental groups to see if they can come together at this table and come up with, what changes could be made to the Oregon Forest Practices Act. That mediation has started. And time will tell on what they can come up with and what they can agree on. Now, there is also certain functions of that tied to, the rules that came out of that as well. The big one being increased buffers along homes and streams and schools, when it pertains to aerial herbicide application. And then also the creation of a e-notification system built within our current firms program, where if anybody wants to do any harvesting, they go in and notify. The intent would be, that hopefully later this year, if anybody wants to be notified of an actual aerial spray that's going to occur near their property, they can go register online. Next one being our State Forest HCP and Companion FMP. We're continuing down the path of working with the federal U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA Marine Fisheries to try to see what the habitat conservation plan would look like for state forest. And kind of the reason we are doing this is to help get some certainty as far as our state forest operations go, so we can still continue to meet greatest permanent value and not be hindered too much for future listings of any endangered species. So we're currently in the NEPA phase with the federal services on that, and at the same time, we're building a companion forest management plan to be tied to the HCP that will really dictate how we operate and manage our state forests moving forward. The timeline for that is February of 2023, where the Board of Forestry will ultimately vote to adopt or not adopt an HCP once we conclude with this process. And then the next big one is the Santiam State Forest Restoration. Santiam State Forest is around 47,000 acres, and roughly half of that was impacted by the Beachy Creek fire, so a very large portion. And they're on the path of trying to get the landscape restored and try to get other services such as our recreation infrastructure opened up back for the public. So there's a lot of work going on with Santiam State Forest. So before we move on to any district updates, those are a very quick agency update for you. Any questions?
Commissioner Jacobs.
Yeah, I have a question. So you kind of briefly touched on this, but I want to make sure I'm not missing something. I think maybe about a month ago or 6 weeks ago, we received a notice from ODF saying that you anticipated having funding coming into the legislature for wildfire counties for better communication infrastructure. But I never saw the follow-up come to that on the actual grant application that opened. So maybe it came in through emergency management, or maybe you haven't sent it out yet, but I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss that.
Okay. I think I know what happened there, but what I'll do is I'm going to double check and I can follow up with you after the fact too, just to make sure I'm correct. But the call for proposals actually went out for that a couple months ago. I believe it went through county emergency managers, and I think with the stipulations tied to it, the county actually did not apply or put in for any proposals because didn't meet any of the criteria set forth in the RFP. But I'm trying to remember from a couple months ago, but I'll definitely look into that, and I will follow back up with you, Commissioner, and make sure that's correct on how I explained it to you. And I'm looking on that too to see if you vaguely remembering that as well.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, anything else?
Other questions, commissioners? No? Thank you.
Okay, so going into the district update, so this is our org chart. The positions on the right hand, or at least they're on my right hand side under Toledo. That's kind of the Toledo staff that work in Lincoln County and ensure our programs are being administered. And that's how much you can see there on top is the Dean Forester. So obviously the big change recently is last year at this time, Mike Cody, longtime district forester, retired. I was fortunate enough to be hired to fill in behind him. Obviously realizing I've got big shoes to fill from that. So that's kind of the change in personnel. We have had a couple positions recently, just ended up leaving us as well for a promotion. One of them was a promotion to another job within the agency. Eric Jacobs, our community wildfire coordinator. Those are grant funded positions that help administer all the field production grants that we get as a district. And that will kind of go in more detail about that program specifically for Lincoln County. And we do have some grant money available to us for physical space there in Lincoln County. And then the other one is on the left-hand side, Jennifer Loxton, our full-time dispatcher. She ended up leaving to go spend more time with the kids. Can't blame her for that, especially the past fire seasons we've had. So we're actively trying to recruit for those two positions as we speak. So that's kind of the state of our current staff. And the good news locally there within Lincoln County, no major turnover out of our Toledo staff, which is always a good thing. So kind of a district update. So current business practices amongst COVID-19, just as you guys are aware, everybody changed how they implement their business processes and procedures. Once the pandemic hit, we've done the same. State government offices continue to remain closed except for by appointment only, and we try to get folks to work from home where we can, and we're continuing down that same path. Last I've heard from the state government standpoint was September 1st, we're planning on opening things back up, but time will tell us if that's either moved up or pushed back out, depending on where we're at with the amount of cases statewide. I want to give a shout out to Deputy Vale, the Woods Patrol deputy. So he helps patrol state forest land and helps us with any law enforcement issues that pop up. And he has always been available to us and timely with his responses. And if we ever need anything, he's always quick and Johnny on the spot to help us out. So just want to give him a kudos there. And whenever he's gone, he's always willing to help find somebody coming behind him to help us out as well. So just want to give Deputy Vale a shout out there and just thank you, Commissioners, for the continued support for that position to be on the books there. So thank you. And then Matt will give an update on our new Toledo compound project.
Yeah, so as you guys are well aware, we are in the process of replacing our current Toledo facility. Over the last couple of months, we've had some pretty good development. We picked a piece of property staying in Toledo and Sturgeon Road. It's a 5-acre piece. So right now we're currently in the due diligence process there. Just kind of working through, verifying the buildable site and making sure it's going to fit our needs. And hopefully going to have that purchased, best case scenario, by the end of the summer. But really hoping to have that done by the end of the year for sure. Alongside that, we selected an architect, a local firm, Great Architecture, to basically take us through the design and build phase. And they're currently working on our programming as well as, the design process after that. So we're slowly moving forward. Once we get through the due diligence phase and acquire this property, we should be off running pretty quick. So, it's been a long venture for these last few years, but I think we're making some good progress.
Yep. And I just a quick point of clarification, just so there's no confusion. We picked up property to do due diligence on. We have not picked the property and purchased it yet.
Correct.
We got to do the due diligence first, and then that will inform us on if we purchased it or not.
Correct.
Okay, so moving on to our fire protection program, and Matt will give an update just from a Lincoln County perspective.
Yeah, so just a quick fire season update from last year. We all lived, the days after Labor Day, and are very well aware of what happened there with the Echo Mountain Complex. But I want to highlight the rest of the fire season, if you will. So it was a very, very light year. So if we wouldn't have had the Echo Mountain Complex, we would have had total 4 statistical fires or just over 1/10 of an acre burn. That kind of puts into context complex, at just over 2,500 acres, in that, 36-hour period that they really, burn actively. So like I said, with Eric Jacobs, our community wildfire forester moving on. Eric is still working, for the district a little bit here and there to try to kind of keep things moving. But we do have some fuel reduction grant money that will be available a little bit later this summer, potentially October, depends on when the grant actually gets funded. But that grant is for the Otis, Rose Lodge, kind of North Lincoln City area. So basically, that area that was impacted by the Echo Mountain Complex. That's good news. I know we've already had lots of folks calling and lots of interest in that grant. The Lincoln County Forest Land Classification Committee. So last year we did not meet like we normally do to do a review of 20% of the county due to COVID. So later this month, just trying to work out a date here, but the committee's gonna get together and we're gonna basically review what we should have reviewed last year and the review for this year. I don't anticipate any large wholesale classification changes, but, just due to development and different things, there may be a few small changes here and there.
Yeah, it's important to note, that is a county process. Those are positions that are, as you all probably remember, those are positions that are appointed through the county commissioners, that ODF utilizes just to ensure, there's adequate fire protection.
And just a quick look into this fire season. We're starting off with a record dry April, very, very minimal precipitation in May, and June is not looking the greatest so far either, even though we did get a little bit of rain the last couple of days, which will take. We're in most of the county. Actually, I think all of the county is in some stage of drought. Our 1,000-hour fuels, that's kind of one thing we use to gauge, the severity of fires. Those are in the 20% range right now, or mid 20% range. And we see those levels typically in mid to late July. So it kind of gives you an idea of where we're at, fuel moisture-wise, for the time of year we're in. So it could be another very challenging season, that's for sure. Any questions on fire protection?
This is Doug. I'll ask a question. So recognizing that all the indicators are for a very challenging fire season, what are some of the things that people can do to mitigate that challenge or to help keep it to a minimum?
Honestly, the biggest thing is minimize the amount of fume start fires. We don't get a ton of lighting fires in the coast range. It can happen, but that's not typically what we get our fire starts from. We get a lot of our fire starts from human activity, whether it's debris burning or campfires or lawn mowing or fireworks or what have you. So I think members of the public could really help us out by just being careful and minimizing any exposure or ways to start fires. That would honestly be the biggest thing. So we could have the worst conditions we've had in 100 years, and if we don't have any starts, we're still in pretty good shape. But it just takes one start to really make things bad.
Yeah, and it's, we get very rarely do we get lightning fires within West Oregon District, and if we do, they're more on the valley side away from Lincoln County. So most, if not all, of our fire starts are actually human caused. So the more the public can be informed of what fire restrictions are in place, the better off we'll be as a whole. So,
And Jenny Demaris does a really good job helping us get that information out.
And not to get into a political hot potato, but isn't there the well, the 20 Nickel Mountain Fire Complex, that was not a lightning caused fire, is that correct?
So that fire is still under investigation, so we
Okay.
cannot talk, about the,
Understood.
cause of that right now, so.
Okay,
My
thank you.
apologies. Once it's official, we can definitely, if you are interested in the cause of it, we can definitely get in touch with you if you'd like, and, we can talk through what the actual cause of that was.
I understand the situation, and when there's an outcome, I would be interested in what the outcome is.
Okay, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got a couple more slides here. Just for time's sake, we'll try to get through these really quick for you all, so you can move on with your meeting. So kind of a quick state forest update. So as a district, we manage about 36,000 acres of state forest land within the district boundaries. Just within Lincoln County, there's 15,468 what we call board of forestry acres. So those are actual acres that, if there's any revenue off management on those properties, 2/3 of those will go to the county and other local taxing districts. And then there's also 4,614 common school land acres. So those are DSL properties that we manage. And any revenue from those properties goes straight into the state school fund to help fund our schools. So just kind of a quick revenue update. So in FY21, the current revenue, or the current fiscal year that we're in right now, the revenue to date that we brought into Lincoln County and other local taxing districts has been just over 1.7 million. Looking at the last fiscal year revenue, we brought in a little over 1.5 million. And we're currently in the planning process, a public comment period of our FY22 annual operations plan. This is what drives what timber sales we have in any given fiscal year. That's what AMPs are for us. We've got currently 3 timber sales planned with an estimated gross of 1.9 million for Lincoln County and other local taxing districts. Just trying to help give you guys a snapshot for what we think could be forecasted revenue for Lincoln County here. So other highlights within state forest within Lincoln County, we're working on a stream enhancement project in the Wolf Creek drainage. It's located in eastern Lincoln County, and we're doing this in conjunction with ODSW and just trying to create better habitat within the streams. And we're doing this with placement of large leaf debris, and we're hoping to get this project done this summer if we can. And then, if you all know, there's the Mount Baker ATV trail system. So that trail system resides on state forest land and also private forest land as well. And we continue to have an agreement with the Mount Baker ATV group, and we work with them just for management of those trails. And we're currently working with them to add a potential reroute of their trail to help get some folks off the main road system and prevent folks from trying to make their own trails up to the Salmon Creek drainage. So we'll be working on that in FY22 to potentially come up with that reroute to improve habitat there within Salmon Creek. So ATVs aren't just making their own trails. And then finally here, we've just got an update for our private forest program, and Matt will take the first 3 slides.
Yeah, so we've got 2 stewardship foresters that you saw there in our org chart, Joe Cock and Leo Williamson. And they're the 2 guys in our office that are in charge of implementation of the Oregon Forest Practices Act. So that's all the rules and statutes, that are enforced on industrial timberland and logging operations, essentially. So for 2020, we had 557 notices of operation for Lincoln County. And that's down slightly from 2019, but not too much. Some of that has to do with markets and weather and other factors, but pretty average for the last few years. And then lastly, I know you guys heard from Susan Shaw the other day on the Fall Creek landslide. Susan is awesome and a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the world of geology. And I just wanted to whole situation and help where we can.
Here, and kind of on the onset of COVID-19, there was a lot of concern nationally that this market in general, particularly the log market, was going to go down. So folks didn't really know what to expect kind of moving forward as the pandemic started. But one thing we quickly learned is once you send everybody home for a month, it's amazing the work they start doing on their own homes, and just the need for lumber and everything still. So surprisingly, and this has been throughout the whole pandemic, it's gone up and down slightly, but it's stayed fairly consistent. The log market has stayed steady throughout COVID-19. And that's a good thing just for the local timber industry as a whole, because it's been able to keep folks working throughout this. And really no signs that we can see right now that that's going to change moving forward, but it's definitely something that we'll be keeping an eye on. One thing I would say is local work has slowed down for the industrial landowners and operators that work in the county, from the standpoint that a lot of the same landowners that have properties in the Coast Range within Lincoln County also have property in the Cascades, where their properties were impacted from all the large fires in the Cascade Range. So they've shifted a lot of their staff and their operators that they typically work with to go work in the Cascade Range, just on the restoration effort that's currently going on over there. So word is that some of those folks and operators are slowly starting to make their way back into the Coast Range and starting up on their own operations again. So we'll kind of see what the long term and how quickly folks can return to business and start getting back to normal a little bit back here in Lincoln County as far as our private forest program goes and the landowners and operators that we work with. So we continue to engage in the Mid-Coast Water Planning Partnership, and that's been good. So we've got Leo Williams and one of our stewardship foresters and Matt locally here. They've done a good job of staying engaged in that effort, and we'll continue to be engaged with that moving forward as much as we can. And really just kind of some of the big three hot topics that, as it comes down to forestry and private forest in general, is just taxes on timber harvest, and is the timber industry paying their fair share of taxes? There's been a lot of bills out there during this long legislative session to call for some changes on that. Where some of those end up, it's like at the end of the session, we'll know. But there has been a lot of discussions on just taxes on timber harvest lately, and I could foresee that being a topic of discussion moving forward as well. And then just like there has been in years past, just a lot of concerns just around water quality and pesticide use, and that's going to be an ongoing topic moving forward as well. And I'm sure between water quality and pesticide use, those are going to be two big topics throughout the Senate Bill 1602 negotiations between the timber industry and the environmental groups as they work through their 18-month mediating session. So, and with that, we are done. Let me stop sharing here and go back. I guess before we leave, any questions from you all?
Any questions, commissioners? Lots of information.
Chair Hunt?
Go ahead, Commissioner Hall.
No questions. Really appreciate the presentation. Sorry we missed last year, but as Chair Hunt said, great presentation with lots of information, and good to welcome you back. And it's my very strong hope we'll be seeing you in person next year at this time.
Well said.
Yeah, I agree. We would love that on our end, and please don't hesitate to say if there's too much information for you. This is my first time with the three of you. So if you need less information or more, just please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. So sorry if we went long on that.
Commissioner Jacobson?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add, and I'll do more of this in my own report here in a little bit, but we do have our drought committee that's up and going, and we had today at 1, I don't think we had anybody from OEF, so I will make sure you guys are still on the list, because it is helpful to have feedback from you all.
I don't know that. I was just traveling over to Columbus today during that.
Okay, no worries. I just want to make sure that you guys get the invitations and are able to join us when you're able to join us. So, thanks.
And we'll make sure to follow up with you, Commissioner Jacobson, on that radio infrastructure RFP, just to make sure I got my story correct that I gave you.
All right, well, again, thank you for very informative presentation. I guess congratulations of sort are in order for Michael, so we look forward to seeing both of you back again in a year, and hopefully it will be in person, so. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, thanks, guys.
All right, we'll move on to a solid waste disposal district update by Paul Seitz, and welcome back, Paul.
Hello again, Commissioners. Thank you. I will try my darndest not to say the word fire or COVID during this presentation. We have talked a lot about during this last year. So you hired me about a year ago, and what I thought I would do is just give you a quick update as what the district is doing so that you don't get surprised. You start looking around, what is going on over there? What is this sign or new thing coming up? I'll start with familiar stuff. And so Household Hazardous Waste Day is coming again. We have it annually. It's the opportunity for people to get rid of all their hazardous waste gunk. This will be a familiar program to all of you. It'll be in Lincoln City this year on July 31st, and for businesses on July 30th. Businesses have to register, but the Household Hazardous Waste is first come, first serve, or show up as you need between 9 a.m. and 2 on the 31st for hazardous waste. I'm just going to kind of tick through a bunch of different programs and program elements just to familiarize yourself. And if you have questions, please dive in. I'm interruptible at any time. We can go on to the next. And by the way, we're now doing all of our materials in English and in Spanish. Continue on, get on through that. So coastal character. I wanted to introduce to you, we have the sustainability program here, and we wanted to give, I worked with RSWAC. I'm coming up with a kind of a marquee, a banner for our sustainability program that was sort of universal, covered a lot of territory, covered a lot of things. It was actually going to be on the bottom of the bag, which I can tell in just a moment. But so we've kind of given our program name Coastal Character. So you'll start seeing this pop up on signs and things and displays and on the bottom of my brochures as sort of our marquee for our sustainability program here at the county. We can scroll on. And one of the first places we were, go ahead and go to the next slide. One of the first things we were going to do is introduce, this is a display, I apologize, it's so large, it doesn't fit on the screen terribly well. It is basically a hat wrap, but it was a display to promote produce bags. And when we first thought we were going to do, we're going to put coastal character on some produce bags and get people to bring back and reuse produce bags. And unfortunately, there's a couple of rules that are in disagreement. Well, rules are in Department of Agriculture, and the desires of DEQ are a little bit misaligned. And so we're not going to pursue that until they kind of get that all worked out. They basically don't want governments promoting produce bags at grocery stores until they get the rules fixed at Department of Agriculture. So we're going to go with a reusable bag campaign, and we aren't actually going to purchase them, but I'm going to get these out to grocery stores, and they can hang the bags on. The reason why this is here, it gives us an opportunity to put more banners up in grocery stores. And there's 12 different, you can scroll to the next slide, 12 different messages on this that can be posted. And the idea is that we can hang this up, you can go out to places such as the aquarium, and they can help promote bags. And we start getting folks to start thinking differently about the environment and what they're doing out there. And so it's just basically a display. We turned the produce bag kind of fiasco into, hey, we'll make this work for us otherwise. And so the bag display itself is built out of old crates and pallets, and it's going to go tour around, and you'll start seeing this appear probably in the next 3 or 4 weeks around parts of the county. We can go on to the next. continuing on with that, compost is going to be a big push, and I'm sure you're familiar with Lincoln City and Northern County, that would be North Lincoln Sanitary Service areas, introducing mixed compostables. And so as part of helping support that campaign, our haulers doing a great job with curbside education materials. But there's another side of that equation for those who do the home composting, some confusion. Well, if I home compost, or I need curbside recycling, and how does that all work? And so we've done a little campaign to make a home composting brochure. And by the way, the answer is yes. You both work very well together, because very often the things you put in your home compost are things that the things that you put into the mixed compostables are not things you want to put in your home compost. They don't compost as quickly, or cause such as animals or other things. So the two work very well together. And so by promoting home compost, we're actually helping the haulers with promoting their services and what they're out doing, and adding value to compost itself. And again, you see the Coastal Character campaign there in that on those materials. And once again, this will be available in English and Spanish for folks to have, and I'll have that available in the next couple of weeks. All of these items I'm thinking will be up and running within a month of now. The other items, we have future items which we'll come back and present to you another time. Okay, we can go on, scroll way down past all these. I apologize, I didn't put this together well for your board packet. I will do better next time. This is the actual brochure you're flipping through right now. We're going to scroll way down past the brochure. It also comes with a display. So there's a mini compost display, and I'm hoping to get this out to garden centers, haulers desks, libraries, the city desks, and if there's a place that public comes here where compost would make sense, that would also a thing we could have. But this little desk display would house the compost brochure and provide a little demonstration area. That doesn't actually move around, but you can then see and incentivize, again, people to think compost and the values of compost. That also comes in a bigger size display. We'll go to the next slide. And the Garden's Beauty, I don't have it built yet, but made out of pallets. What that is, many home compost can successfully be made out of just 3 pallets put together. So we actually have a life-size one, which I don't know if you can see in the background over here, that assembles. The signs are going to be here in time for the fair, and I'm working on getting it at the fair so that we can have a large, full-scale compost demonstration site available. And again, people can get information about compost, and we want to value what compost does when you put it in your garden, and how we don't want to put things that belong in compost into the garbage. Lastly, as part of that whole effort, there's something called Ads to Make Smiles, a compost cafe. I'm going to work with some local folks, some local voices, and we're going to do some ads. There'll be voice ads, as well as like Facebook ads with some quick pictures. And the idea is on that, we have a sous chef that talks nothing but compost at their kitchen, and all the valuable things that you can put into compost, whether it be your home compost or your roll cart compost, and what that does for your garden. Talks about contamination, such as biodegradable bags. Can you recycle biodegradable bags with compost? Which the answer is no, by the way. You want to throw those away. Or biodegradable forks. And so we can cover a lot of topics with sort of a chef host, and make pre-recorded 1-minute little segments, and something we call Ads to Make Smiles. And that will go together, Ads to Make Smiles, with a bunch of different campaigns. But that's supporting our compost. You'll hear that and see that out probably later this summer. Lastly, or not lastly, so next in our toolbox for the Coastal Character campaign is the sign which you see, Keep Our Coast Natural. We're going to do a push for litter, keeping our coast clean. And so that Keep Our Coast Natural sign, if you scroll down a little bit further, we sent out Oh, and we're making some signs, and we have Deputy Vale is going to use some signs also that he's going to post at signs he finds the illegal dumping. But I'm going to go down one more step to this order form, and not that you can use this order form, but we have a whole host of signs available to our cities, to the local park districts, anyone who has areas in the area. And under the Coastal Character Campaign, we're going to promote different ways of helping reduce litter. And scroll down a little bit further, some creative different signs that we have made. Let's keep going to the next page. So these little signs that you're seeing they can post up along trails, along other areas, and the district's going to provide them out. We have an order form right now going out. Several hundred signs will be hopefully coming in the next few weeks, and we'll get those out into our community, helping reduce litter. Scroll a little further till we get down to the last here. We're also going to support the cities who, one of the things I'm seeing a lot of are the person who picks up litter out of the goodness of their soul and heart. And we actually got contacted by a lady up in Lincoln City who came to us from a different county from Midwest, and she had a whole program she wants to start here. And I got to talking with Lincoln City folks, and I thought we would support people like that. So cities or the county, if you know of people in your community that are doing grand things, we can give them a vest, a safety vest for themselves, or they can also order 10 of these things and say, hey, we're going to have cleanup every week, and the Parks District can order 10 of these. And they can all be coastal characters going out and they collect the vests again, or we could gift these to people who are doing a fantastic job of helping keep our community clean, and we're helping keep them safe while they're out doing it. And as long as we're on that topic, the Trail Litter Pack, which is this cheap, inexpensive pack. It's a little like something you take on your canoe trip or a kayaking trip to keep your stuff dry. Its straps are just strings, but it's something we thought we could give people as a giveaway, as a litter bag for when you're hiking on our trails or out on the coast and you find things. So many people are carrying these things around their hand. It might be handy to toss this into a bag for people that are regularly out hiking and doing the right thing. Help support those folks who are helping keep our community clean. So that's some of the coastal character stuff that we're doing. And then lastly, I think we're going to jump in across next slide.
That's it.
Oh, there's no more down? Nope, maybe that was all. Okay, then that was all. Then I'll just mention the forest program real quick. That's Nick Vale's enforcement program. We've expanded that just a little bit this last year. We've added a new forest program to it, a new forester, and increase the acreage. We're just over 300,000 acres in our forest enforcement program now contributing. Anyway, so that's kind of what's going on, and there'll be more and more campaigns and more things coming your way, but I want to you have the opportunity to ask questions. You'll be seeing these things coming out very soon, and we've been focused on so many of the different things. We haven't really been talking garbage and given a chance to talk trash for a minute. Any questions? Commissioners?
I don't have any questions, just really nice to get an update and nice to see you having some time to do your other job as opposed to a wildfire recovery job. That is not obviously important, but it's good to see that you've carved some time away to do some of this other stuff. I would just say in terms of the signage and all of that, boy, I mean, just getting that as much up as possible before 4th of July would be really great. That's a huge debris time for us. And as far as volunteer, cleanup, again, 4th of July, there's a lot of both formal and informal cleanup groups that take place on beaches and other places after that to clean up fireworks that are left over. So, like I said, some are formal, some are informal. It would be nice to kind of hit up some of those people with invest or what have you, as we can.
Commissioner Hall?
No questions, just really appreciate a good information-packed update.
I was gonna say there's some exciting plans there. Paul, really, we'll be interested to see how those all get going. And, you know, I'm a big fan of composting. I think it's truly a win-win situation. It keeps things out of landfill that don't need to be there, and you end up with some soil that, well, most people probably can grow something in it. I probably couldn't, but that's a different issue. And, you know, ultimately the landfills are gonna fill up, and then it's gonna be even more expensive. So big fan of composting and look forward to some of those, the character campaign sounds truly exciting. So good work.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you. All right, commissioner reports. I'll just say Commissioner Jacobson, we'll let you go first.
Sure, I just wanted to give a kind of brief report on our kind of informal drought committee that we have. This is something I started when I took office a few years ago. It's kind of an informal group of people representing ag, forestry, and other sectors, hydrologists and such that come, state agencies come to this. And it is pretty imminent that we're probably going to need to declare a drought. You know, for example, we're at Slip River is currently discharging at 32% average. Super low Alsea is currently discharging at 30% average and setting record historic daily minimums kind of every day. So we're not quite to the point, but I think we all know what's coming. So I know Council Belmont has gotten that declaration ready. Our plan is to try to pull in as many water purveyors as we can and connect with them. Next week, to just get everybody on board, make sure they're ready with their water curtailment programs. Of course, the county is not a water purveyor, so all the people that are going to be doing that heavy lifting. And likely, if things keep the way they are going, we'll need to declare either next week or the week after. So just kind of giving you a heads up that that discussion on declaring a drought is forthcoming, and a message to the public that we are headed into a drought declaration, and curtailment matters for many water purveyors are probably coming as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Jacobson. Commissioner Hall.
I'll make this brief. I've been out on leave the last 2 weeks, and I am slowly easing back into the work groove beginning this week. And I just want to thank everybody, the many, many people who reached out with me with messages, concern, and support. It's really appreciated. Thanks.
Well, welcome back. I'll just report that last week I was part of a tour at the King's Salvage site, or former King's Salvage site. The county has already spent about $350,000 of our own taxpayer dollars to really do a surface, and in some aspects, superficial cleaning of the area. One of the numbers that I found particularly fascinating is that tires were abundant at that location. They still are, but the county paid to have, if you're sitting down, you can figure this out, 350,000 tons of tires hauled out of that site. And this meeting last week was for contractors to look at what I'll call the next level of work. This is some state money that's available, roughly $700,000 to start pulling the vehicles, the boats, the whatever that is kind of buried in the surface but somewhat visible. There's some concern about contamination. Again, it was a wrecking yard, but nice to see that the state has now made available brownfield money in the neighborhood of $750,000 for a next big step in what I hope will be eventually turning that land back into a green green space that can be enjoyed by all of our people. So was exciting to see more progress there. With that, if there are no more reports, Commissioner Jacobson, you have something to add?
I just wanted to respectfully correct something you said, which
Okay, please do.
was the county has spent taxpayer dollars on that property, and to my knowledge, we have not spent taxpayer dollars. We have spent money, revenue from tax foreclosed property sales on that cleanup, so I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, all right, well, I guess it was taxpayer dollars that paid for the property. But point taken. All right, moving on, next, we have public comment. Christie, show us the, public comment. This would be the STR, input.
We didn't receive any input on the agenda.
Okay, so no,
No.
smart sheets. All right. So that was the public comment on STRs. All right, any other business to come before the board? All right, if not, at 5:30 this evening, we are having a joint session with the city of Walport. Then on Wednesday night, June 9th, we'll be having a joint session with the city of Lincoln City City Council. And then next Monday, on June 14th, there will be a 3 p.m. virtual meeting of the Board of Commissioners. And with that, there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
This conference is no longer being recorded.